The world knew Kelly Ripa as the woman who never broke. Bright eyes, brighter smile. Every morning, she walked through those studio doors, carrying warmth like it cost her nothing. She laughed, she sparkled, she made millions of people feel like their day had begun with a hug from a friend. No one saw what she carried home. The quiet she couldn't explain. It started as silence, the kind that settles into a house at night when everyone else is asleep and you are alone with a truth you haven't spoken aloud yet. Kelly had felt it for weeks, that low, persistent dread that hides behind the busyness of life until, one evening, the busyness stops. She sat at the kitchen table long after dinner had gone cold. The house was still. Outside, rain tapped softly against the window, slow and indifferent. The way grief often arrives, not in a crash, but in a drizzle that slowly soaks through everything. The diagnosis had come without ceremony. A doctor's voice, low and careful, words that rearranged the entire architecture of who you thought you were. Cancer, a word that turns ordinary Wednesday afternoons into something else entirely. She didn't cry in the doctor's office. She didn't cry in the car. She cried at home, alone, in the bathroom, with the shower running so nobody would hear. As told by those closest to her what her children saw. Children see everything. That is the heartbreaking truth of it. They cannot always name what they see, but they feel it, the way animals feel the storm before it arrives. Kelly's children felt it long before she found the words. Her son noticed first. He was standing in the hallway one evening when she walked past, and something in her face stopped him. Not her expression was perfect, as it always was. It was something behind her eyes, a kind of exhaustion that sleep could not reach. "Mom," he said, quietly, "are you okay?" She smiled. She said yes. He didn't believe her. And that was the beginning of everything breaking open. Her daughter had her own version of the story. She would later describe watching her mother get dressed for work. One morning, the same ritual Kelly had performed 1,000 times. Every move certain and graceful, and noticing that her hands were trembling. Just slightly, just enough. Her mother caught her watching and went very still. The two of them stood there in the morning light, saying nothing, and in that silence there was more honesty than in anything that had come before. "She looked at me," her daughter said, "and for the first time I saw her as a person, not just my mom, a person who was scared. We didn't want her to feel alone. So we made a decision together. We were going to walk into this with her, whatever it was, no matter what." Her children, speaking privately. Scene 3. The night she finally told them it was a Sunday. Dinner was done, the table half cleared, the light in the kitchen low and golden, the way it gets in autumn when the day is ending early. Kelly asked her children to sit. She had rehearsed it. She had practiced the words 12 times in her head, chosen them carefully, the right words, the honest words, the brave words. But when she looked at their faces, every rehearsed sentence dissolved. She simply told them the truth. The room went so quiet. Outside, the rain had returned, that same slow, patient rain, and it was the only sound in the world. And then her youngest moved across the kitchen without saying anything and wrapped both arms around her. No words, just presence. The oldest followed, then the next, until Kelly was at the center of them, held completely, trying very hard not to fall apart, and then falling apart entirely. She cried. One of her children would later say, softly, we had never seen her cry like that. And it wasn't sad. Not exactly. It was relief, like she had been carrying something alone for so long, and now finally she didn't have to anymore. The long road back to Litamans that followed were not easy. They were slow. They were difficult in ways that cannot be fully translated into words. There were mornings Kelly could not summon the brightness the world expected of her. There were days the camera felt impossibly far away. There were nights the silence came back, but it was a different silence now, a shared one, and that made all the difference. Her children became her anchors. They showed up every day, not with grand gestures, but with small, relentless, ordinary love. A cup of tea left by the bed, a text at noon that said, "Only I'm thinking of you," a hand on her shoulder, passing in a hallway, that said everything. Words could not. She fought. That is the truth of who Kelly Ripa is. She is a fighter in the quietest, most stubborn way, in the way that doesn't announce itself but simply refuses to stop. She showed up for every treatment. She showed up for her children. She showed up for the cameras on the mornings. She had absolutely nothing left to give. And she gave anyway. Some days I didn't know how I was still standing. And then I'd look at them, my children, and I'd think that is how, that is why, that has always been why. Kelly, in reflection, what survives there is a particular kind of light that only comes after great darkness. It is not the bright, easy light of ordinary mornings. It is something older and quieter and more true, the light of a person who has looked at the worst thing and chosen, still, to remain. Kelly Ripa carries that light now. You can see it if you look carefully, not in her smile, which was always brilliant, but in her eyes, something deeper there, something that has been tested and has held. Her children carry it too. They are not the same people they were before that Sunday evening in the autumn kitchen. They are something more. They are people who chose love deliberately, in the dark, without knowing how the story would end, and that changes you forever. This is what illness does when it is survived. It strips everything down to what is real. And what was real, in every room, on every hard morning, in every long quiet night, was them. This family, this stubborn, luminous, unbreakable love. Outside, the rain is still falling, but inside, there is warmth, there is light. There is still so much time for anyone carrying something alone. Tonight you are not the only one. Let someone hold it with you. That is where the healing begins.